Hello and welcome. I am Jody Myciak, and today I have the privilege and I'm so honored to be here with Natalie Reimer Anderson. And she is a self love empowerment coach. And oh my goodness, her story is incredible, and I'm so excited for her to be here and share it with us today. Hello, Natalie.
Hi, Jody.
Yes, please share with us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you really became a self-love coach.
Sure, I'd love to. Yes, my name's Natalie Reimer Anderson, and my journey starts probably about, I could go way back, but it starts about a dozen years ago when I had my first child. And I was feeling incredibly lethargic and depressed, and couldn't get out of bed in the morning except out of duty to that little boy and that beautiful little being that came into my life. And I had put on about 90 pounds in pregnancy. And as the time went on, I wasn't able to lose it. And I was really frustrated with my life and my body, because I had come from an athletic background where I was a professional volleyball player. And this really felt like the first time in my life where my body was betraying me. That's at least how I was seeing it back then. And I was trying to figure out, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I so tired? And I just, instead of thinking that maybe there was something diagnosable that I needed to have treated, I just kind of like beat myself up and was really self-loathing. And, then starts all the thoughts about how I'm a terrible mother. I'm not cut out for this. And, just like that, I should be doing so much more. And so through this really synchronistic series of events, I ended up in the office of an intuitive medical doctor. And it was my two close friends that sort of arranged a bit of an intervention, because they even saw how I was not myself, and I was not, my normal happy-go-lucky, loving self. Excuse me. So they arranged for me, without my knowledge, to land in this doctor's office. And I kind of piggybacked on the appointment of my girlfriend. And he took one look at me and he said, "I know what's wrong with you." And I was kind of taken aback. I was insulted. And I remember thinking, like, how dare he? There's nothing wrong with me, because I was in total denial of even how deep I had gotten into my self-loathing. And so he looked at me and he said, "Do you love yourself?" And I immediately burst into tears, because I was ashamed. And at the same time, I knew the answer was no. And I was so hopeful. It was this like weird mix of emotions. And I realized, that's it. He actually just told me what is missing in my life. And he said, when you get to the bottom of self-love, self-acceptance, and self-forgiveness, you will be healed. And I thought, what? Is there something wrong with me? Do I have cancer? What's going on? And he said, no, but I do know what you have. You have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition that attacks the thyroid gland, which is your center of creativity and your chakra of personal expression and expressing your truth. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And he said, and I'm going to do tests and I'll show you that that's what it is. And sure enough, he did the tests, and my antibody levels attacking my thyroid were through the roof. So I had this actual diagnosable thing that was wrong with me. And he said, if you come here, we'll do the treatments to help stabilize your thyroid. But the secret to healing your thyroid, and the truth about autoimmune conditions, is allopathic medicine, so medical doctors, like the medical field, does not believe that autoimmune conditions can be cured. They believe they can only be managed. And I am living proof that autoimmune conditions can be healed.
Wow.
And so 4 years later, I have no antibodies. My thyroid is completely normal. I've lost the 90 pounds. I have no more depression. I have this, joie de vivre and spark for life that is unlike anything I've ever experienced before, even before when I was, the picture of perfect health, but still judging myself and affirming myself and validating myself externally by what my body could do rather than what I am and who I am as a human.
Wow, that is incredible. The fact that you were able to find that doctor too, that just kind of thinks outside the box. That's wow.
Yeah. And I should mention, the beautiful thing about his treatments were there were things in the physical organism that needed to be realigned and healed in order for my body to have that homeostasis. But the true work, he would send me home and he'd say, do this practice, read this book, meditate, obviously take these supplements and eat these living foods. And the combination of all those things was what made me well. But the true and secret piece of the whole puzzle was the self-love piece. And so after, about 4 years that it took for me to get well, I realized, I was working as a nutritionist in a naturopathic clinic. And even there, people would come in and my job was to weigh and measure and reduce them to numbers on a scale. And it didn't sit right with me. And I was like, you know what? We're so much more than the sum of our parts. Mm-hmm. And here I'm seeing more than, probably 400 patients, and everybody has the same thing. They have this deficit of self-love. And if we can correct that, then the body falls in line, because the body is just an outpicturing of what the soul and the subconscious believes about oneself. And so that's what I do now with my clients, solely work on the self-love and getting the body in alignment with
that's incredible. And it really is true that self-love is the foundation for everything. I'm pretty sure you have words like that on your website as well. And it really is, the starting point of everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is the fundamental relationship of our life is to ourselves. And we focus so little on what that looks like, yet it governs every other relationship that we have in life, including to that of nutrition, food, exercise, our relationships with significant others, our family, our career, our money, our sex life. It's all connected to that self-perception. And we're so disconnected from what we actually believe about ourselves because that's such a subconscious world. Starts so early.
Yes, definitely. So you had a friend kind of give you that little nudge to go see this doctor. What would you tell any mothers that are having that, a hard time loving themselves? What would be kind of the first step to take to kind of love yourself more?
Well, I do believe that it begins with what are our blocks to loving ourselves? What are the subconscious limiting beliefs and programs that we have running that have usually been picked up early on in like our early childhood development, usually from ages infant to 7, and then from 7 to 14, and then a little bit later in life, where we don't even know what is running us because we just kind of go through life on autopilot. And if you think of like the subconscious as an iceberg, it's 95% of that iceberg is below the surface. That's the subconscious. And just that tip of the iceberg is the conscious mind, which we are in connection with at all times. So what I like for people to do is to kind of excavate what are those deep core beliefs that we have about ourselves that are limiting and not serving us. And so with my coaching program, I take 3 months with the first 3 months of a trimester system. And the first 3 months are all excavating down into what those core limiting beliefs are, bringing them to the light of day so that we can actually decide and understand that this is what's been running our ship, basically, and then remove those. There are ways of choosing again and deleting those belief systems that we've either inherited or chosen really early on in life that we can unchoose, because if we've chosen something, we can unchoose it.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And so true.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Even being a mother, it's really incredible to kind of be aware of these thoughts now, because we're put, any belief we have, we're sharing that with our children as well.
That is a powerful statement. It's absolutely true, because it is that 0 to 7. The mind is basically, the mind's always recording everything, but especially from 0 to 7, you're almost like in a hypnotic state. So everything that you see is just being recorded, and you're making decisions about what it means to be you and what it means to be a human being in those first 7 years. It starts to trail off a little bit after that, but it's still happening. But those are such formative years, and so much of what we are. Like, there's a Jesuit statement: give us a child for the first 7 years, and we'll show you the man. And basically saying that what you input into that little being for those first 7 years will dictate who they are in their future. So as mothers, I mean, we have this amazing opportunity to be a contribution to how our child will see themselves. But if you are a mother, you also were a child at some point, and those first 7 years of you have dictated who you are. So it's important to go back into, what did I decide about myself? And if you made those decisions, you can, like I said, unchoose them. You can decide again.
Incredible. I love that. That gives hope, right, to mothers, that, even though you have these beliefs that are not serving you anymore, you can change them and to make them work for you.
Absolutely. It's really true that, we are our own creation, and we are always creating ourselves, whether we're doing it deliberately or doing it by default. So you're no less powerful in creating who you are, whether you know it or not. Most of the time we spend our lives using that power against ourselves, because we don't know how to harness our mind and how to say, wait a second, these are the same thoughts that I had yesterday. These are just redundant things. We're addicted to our thoughts, and they just kind of float in and float out, and we don't really decide that we don't have to believe those. And we're also, we believe our feelings are facts most of the time. And all of these things are basically like this feedback loop that we've just learned. And then we have this chemical cascade that our receptors are used to receiving. And then it causes us to have this feeling. And then this feeling causes this action and this choice. And then we just keep doing the same thing day in and day out. So it's just this feedback loop process that we've become addicted to. And when we recognize that that's how we're living and we can choose something different, there are ways of interrupting that process, choosing something different, and then rehearsing that until that becomes your reality. And so when I got myself well, it was recognizing what my patterns were, all those automatic negative thoughts that I kept having that were dictating the same chemical cascade, that was dictating the same feeling, that was making me make the same choices and behaviors day in and day out, and going, this is not how I want to live my life. And then I began to rehearse another life and another way of being. And I chose who I wanted to be. And the truth about who we choose, who we want to be, is actually the higher self telling us who we truly are.
Wow. So you pretty much have one into the next question that I really wanted to ask was, so you're talking about pretty much being more mindful, because you said, we go about our days just kind of on autopilot and, reliving those same thoughts and beliefs. So how do you really just kind of become more mindful? What was one of the one major things that kind of helped you really become more mindful of your thoughts?
Yeah, great question. So you do want to take a thought inventory. So step number 1 is just begin by paying attention to your thoughts. We're so on autopilot. So it requires a little bit of discipline at first in order to make this transformation, but really paying attention and challenging your thoughts. Is it even true? Or are we just recreating a story that's familiar? It's like that comfortably numb idea, right? Are we recreating, this feels familiar, therefore it's right? And that's not the truth. Sometimes the truth is something completely different. So inventory of thoughts, just observing, just compassionately observing, because you're not wrong in this, you're just human. And that's the thing about it is, this could be another reason for a lot of people to go in and then beat themselves up for having these kinds of thoughts about themselves. You've just been trained day in and day out to have these kinds of thoughts. And the true and empowering way to look at it is to say, I don't have to have those thoughts. I am in control of my mind. Otherwise, it will just run wild with you and it will control you. I can give everybody 2 quick and easy ways to start to control those thoughts and try and start to shape who they are. If
Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you. That'd be great. Love that.
Yeah, for sure. So the first one, there's 2 times of day when our mind is the most primed and fertile to sort of plant the new seeds of who we want to be and to sort of eliminate or undo those years and years of patterning of subconscious beliefs that we have. So the subconscious and the conscious mind start to sort of meld into one at the first thing in the morning when you wake up and the last thing in the evening when you're falling asleep. So this is where you're sort of in that lucid state where it's half awake. So first thing in the morning when you wake up, your brain, your mind is primed and ready to receive. So before you get out of bed in the morning, and this is sometimes difficult for moms because what wakes us up might be a crying child or someone like poking at us. But if you have the opportunity to do so, before your feet touch the ground, take 5 minutes, if it can't be 5, somewhere near 5 minutes, where you just sit with yourself and you make an intention of how you want to be that day, who you want to be, how you want to be, how you want to live, what you want to live from, and really just connect to your heart space and feel yourself into that feeling of being that, that mom that has patience, that mom that can look at a situation and be like, this is all okay. We're going to be fine. No matter what happens, I'm going to be an expression of love to my little ones. I'm going to have patience. Today, I'm not going to raise my voice because I can handle this. Just approaching yourself with that grace and feeling into that and rehearsing that for yourself. And then the last 5 minutes before you fall asleep at night is another fertile time. The seeds that you plant in that last 5 minutes granulate in your subconscious while you're sleeping, and then they become who you are the next day. Okay, and imagine repeating this over and over again, the cumulative effects of that. So what I like to do is have a journal beside my bed and just take those last 5 minutes and like I'm almost falling asleep by the end of it, and that's okay. If you fall asleep and you got like a pen in your journal like smushed to your face the next morning, that's okay. It's using that time is such a powerful exercise, and then just doing that day in, day out for weeks to months, you'll start to shape your subconscious, and then that out pictures into who you are the next day and the subsequent days.
Oh, that's beautiful and so helpful, and so true about waking up in the morning and maybe not having those, a lot of time.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That's so helpful. Even for me, I find that really, really helpful. So I'm sure other mothers will too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The journaling exercise too, the I am, don't think I said that, but if you write the 2 words I am at the top of the page, anything that comes after it is like a declaration of what you want to create. And so just the 2 words, I am, it's like abracadabra, and then you just write, I am patient, I am loving, I am radiant, I am worthy, I am enough, I am lovable. Whatever you want to experience in your life and to make your truth is what you write on that paper. Even if it feels incongruent with how you currently feel about yourself, you're again implanting these deep into the subconscious. It might not compute in the conscious mind, but you're editing your subconscious, and that's when it starts showing up in your life.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That is powerful. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, well, I know what I'm doing tonight. So yes. So you pretty much, yeah. So let's say we go about our day. So you've kind of talked about, your thought are, as you know, is just very fertile, your brain, in the morning and night. So what happens, say you're going about your day, and either you come across a person that, throws you off, or you just have a negative thought. How do you kind of change that thought process? Now, you've kind of been doing this for a while, so it might come easier to you, but what would you suggest mothers that are just like their kids going, off the walls, or not listening to them, or they're just having some negative thoughts show up in their day?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it is really difficult when you're in it, right? And that's the thing, is like, as a mother, I know how hard it is. And if you're in the arena and you've got some skin in the game, then you're allowed to comment about these kinds of things, right? Because like, it ain't easy. So I'm not going to pretend that it is. What I think I found helpful was just to center back into heart space. When we are in stress mode, we're in our mind, and our mind makes us worry about everything physical, and it makes us in this like hyper vigilant state where we can't even breathe deeply because everything is like in stress mode. So we're breathing shallow, our pupils are dilating, we're worried about everything physical needs, safety, security. So it kind of messes with our mind, and even messes with our chemical physiology when we have these stress chemicals constantly bathing our cells. It makes everything tense. So the opposite of that is to take a pause, to reconnect to your heart space, even just putting a hand over your heart and telling yourself, I am safe. Because the opposite of feeling safe is that feeling of you're in stress mode. So you're not being chased by a lion. It feels like it. That's what your chemical cascade is fooling your body into thinking it's in fight or flight mode. So you have to reconnect to the heart, because once we bring our energy back down here and really just breathe into that space, our mind starts to soften and it doesn't control us. So the quickest way to do that, hand over heart, breathe deeply. Full residual volume of the lungs, because when we're in stress mode, we're breathing like this and we don't even know it. And we're robbing our mind of oxygen. And that's contributing to that negative feedback loop of even more stress, because now I'm not even breathing. And you're walking around like this, and all you can think about is the physical dimension, and you lose connection to the spirit and the soul and the being that you are, and the beautiful little being that your son and daughter are, right? So we want a mother from our heart space. I don't know a single mother who doesn't want that. Take a pause, breathe into your heart space. I know we've been trained to do a lot of like timeout type stuff with our kids. Have a time in with yourself. Give yourself a couple of minutes. Anything that is happening, I mean, granted, there's a few exceptions of actual safety issues. Anything can wait for 2 minutes while you just tune back in, breathe deeply, fill your body with that healing oxygen. Breath is so important. It stops that stress hormone from taking over your body, and it allows you to get back into your heart. It's simpler than you think, might not be easy, but practice, repetition is everything. Because as we practice, it goes from being informational to transformational. It goes from being conscious, where we have to work at it, to being subconscious when all of a sudden things get hairy and you're just like, connect, reconnect.
I love that so much. Just reconnect. And we can all find 2 minutes, like you said. Take that time.
And it gets easier.
Well, it becomes a practice, right? We learn to brush our teeth, so it just becomes something that we have to, think about. And and the more we do it, it just becomes something. So that's really a great tool to have. I think that's incredible. Now, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today? Any words of encouragement to mothers out there? You've already shared so much today, but is there anything else you'd like to share? And any advice?
Yeah, I just would want mothers to know that you have taken on the greatest calling and the most important job that there is on this planet, to be able to lovingly shape the future. And I want people, mothers especially, to know that to give themselves the grace and the patience. Motherhood is the most difficult, I felt for myself. It's the most difficult, yet also the most rewarding time. It's full of guilt and, thinking that you're falling short and that you're not good enough and that you should be doing more. And at the same time, you're full of these beautiful, loving experiences, and your heart is like more open and overwhelmed than it probably ever has been in your life. And the fact is, it's okay. Those two things can run concurrently. They're not mutually exclusive. You can be questioning yourself all the time, and you can also be full of love and just like leading from that space. You are enough. You are an amazing mother. We all have self-doubt, and just keep reassuring yourself that you are enough, you are worthy. And for all the mothers out there, I think the most important thing is all of that love and attention and nurturance that you shower on your children. You need to also mother yourself through this time and be your own mother. Self-love is mother's milk, and it is what we all crave first and foremost. So take the time to consciously love yourself and challenge anything that is preventing you from seeing yourself as this divine, infinite, beautiful being who also came to this planet as a baby, who also deserves all the love, attention, and nurturance that you give to your babies. Yeah, that's what I would want for everybody.
Wow, that is amazing advice and words of encouragement. And thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
They're doing the best they can, and just
that's all that's required.
Yeah, I always say, we just look at our childhood, and like our parents can only do what they do, and then we just take that a step further. So.
Yeah, well said. Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you again for all your amazing insight and suggestions of, how to get out of those negative thoughts and really just become a person we really want to love and just be more loving to ourselves. So thank you so much, Natalie, for taking this time today to be with us.
Thank you, Jody.
Yeah, so thank you. And thank you guys, all you wonderful mothers, for taking the time for you and to really just get to know a little bit more about how to love yourself. So have a wonderful day, and bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.